Let us begin with the sound of a quiet wind blowing over the rolling hills of the Eastern Cape in South Africa. The year is 1918, and the world is weary from the destruction of the First World War. But in a small village called Mvizo, a boy is born who will one day bring hope not only to his people but to millions around the globe. His birth name was Nelson Mandela. In the Xhosa language, his name carried a curious meaning, pulling the branch of a tree. Some also translated it as troublemaker. It was a name that would later prove strangely prophetic, for Relilila would indeed trouble unjust rulers and shake the very foundations of oppression. His father, Gadla Henry Mafakaniswa, was a respected chief and counselor to the Thembu king. His mother, Nakofai Nasekini, was a gentle and devout Christian woman who filled her son's heart with humility, kindness, and faith. Their home was simple, a hut of mud and straw surrounded by open fields and streams. There was no electricity, no running water, no luxuries. But young Relilila did not feel poor. He ran barefoot through the hills, swam in rivers, herded cattle with other boys, and listened to elders tell stories of brave warriors and wise leaders around the fire at night. These stories planted seeds in his mind, whispering of courage, service, and destiny. One day, his father told him words that would never leave him. A real leader is not someone who seeks power for himself, but someone who serves his people. Those words sank deep into the boy's heart, waiting to guide him in years to come. Chapter 2, Losing a Father. Finding a chief tragedy struck when Relilila was only 9 years old. His father grew ill and passed away. For a boy so young, it was a painful loss, a wound that could have broken his spirit. But fate had another path prepared. After his father's death, his mother took him to live with Chief Jongintaba Dalandebo, the acting regent of the Thembu people. Chief Jongintaba welcomed Relilila as his own son. In the chief's great household, the boy encountered a wider world than the village huts he had known. Here he witnessed councils and meetings, debates over justice, traditions of governance, and the responsibilities of leadership. From the region he learned that power was not glory, it was duty. The boy listened, absorbed, and observed just as he had once listened to the elders' fireside tales. His destiny was slowly being shaped in those royal halls. Chapter 3, the name Nelson. When Relilila was 7, he had begun attending a small Methodist school. On his first day, his teacher, Miss Medingane, gave him an English name. This was the custom of the time, rooted in colonial practice. She looked at the young boy and declared, "From now on, you are Nelson." And so Relilila Mandela became Nelson Mandela. He did not yet grasp why he needed a foreign name, but he accepted it. For him, the most important thing was learning. Education filled him with energy and hope. He loved literature, geography, and especially history. The tales of African heroes who resisted colonial rule stirred his imagination. Years later, Mandela would say, "Education is the most powerful weapon which you can use to change the world." Even as a boy, he began to understand this truth. Education would be his ladder to freedom. Chapter 4, Dreams of Manhood. At the age of 16, Mandela joined other boys in the traditional Xhosa rite of passage to manhood. They underwent circumcision, as generations before them had, and listened as elders spoke of duty, responsibility, and identity. But that day, alongside the proud words of tradition, the elders also spoke with sorrow. They spoke of how their people suffered under the system of racial segregation, later known as apartheid. Black South Africans were landless, voiceless, stripped of rights and dignity. He realized manhood was not only about personal honor, but also about carrying the struggles of one's people. He felt a duty awakening inside him, to fight injustice, to seek freedom, to bring dignity back to his people. Chapter 5, Escape to the City. By the time he turned 19, Mandela faced an arranged marriage planned by Chief Jongintaba, but Mandela wanted something different. He hungered for education, independence, and self-determination. and so with courage and youthful boldness he fled to the city of Johannesburg. There, the world widened before him again. Johannesburg was a city of contradictions, tall buildings, bustling streets, and wealth on one side, but deep poverty, segregation, and injustice on the other. Black South Africans toiled in mines and factories for meager pay, while white South Africans lived with privilege and power. Mandela himself worked as a night watchman at a gold mine. He lived in crowded rooms, sometimes going hungry, but he did not waver. He knew education was his key. He eventually found work as a clerk in a law firm. By day he worked, by night he studied by candlelight. Hunger gnawed at his stomach, but ambition burned brighter in his soul. Chapter 6. The student of law. Mandela enrolled at the University of Witwatersrand, one of the few black students among mostly white classmates. Discrimination was constant, but Mandela endured. He poured himself into the study of law, determined to master the system that was being used to oppress his people. During this time, he joined the African National Congress (ANC), a political organization that had been working for decades to secure rights for black South Africans. But Mandela and other young activists wanted a new energy, a bolder approach. They helped to form the ANC Youth League, bringing fresh passion to the struggle. Mandela spoke with fire. His speeches inspired thousands. He declared that freedom was possible, equality was worth fighting for, and justice could not wait. One of his most memorable sayings was, "It always seems impossible until it's done." Chapter 7. Love and Sacrifice. In Johannesburg, Mandela met Evelyn Toko Mays, a nurse who shared his dreams of a better South Africa. They married in 1944 and soon began a family. Mandela loved his children deeply, but the call of the struggle often pulled him away from home. Balancing family life and activism proved to be one of his greatest challenges. He later admitted, "There is no passion to be found in settling for a life that is less than the one you are capable of living." His passion for justice demanded sacrifice, not only from him, but from those he loved most. Chapter 8. The Fire of Resistance. In 1948, South Africa's government formalized apartheid with new, harsher laws. Black South Africans were told where they could live, where they could work, even whom they could marry. Entire communities were uprooted. Families were torn apart. Injustice became law. Mandela and the ANC organized protests, boycotts, and strikes. Inspired by Mahatma Gandhi's philosophy, Mandela believed in nonviolent resistance. Thousands risked their jobs and safety to march and demand justice, but the government responded with brutal violence. Protesters were beaten, jailed, and sometimes killed. Mandela himself was arrested several times. Yet he refused to yield. He said, "Courage is not the absence of fear. It's inspiring others to move beyond it." Chapter 9. The Turn to Struggle. In 1960, tragedy shook the nation. During a peaceful protest in the town of Sharpeville, police opened fire on the crowd. 69 men, women, and children were killed. Hundreds were injured. The massacre horrified the world and convinced Mandela that peaceful protest alone might not be enough. The government banned the ANC. Force underground, Mandela and his comrades formed Umkhonto weSizwe, meaning Spear of the Nation. Their aim was not to kill, but to sabotage government structures that upheld apartheid. They wanted to shake the system without shedding innocent blood. Mandela became a wanted man. He traveled in disguise, meeting allies, organizing in secret, and even leaving the country to gather support. His skill at evading capture earned him the nickname the Black Pimpernel, but danger was constant and the net was closing in. Chapter 10. Captured and Condemned. In 1962, Mandela was captured, charged with sabotage and treason, and put on trial. The courtroom became his stage, and his voice became a weapon. In his legendary speech, he declared, "I have fought against white domination and I have fought against black domination. I have cherished the ideal of a democratic and free society in which all persons live together in harmony and with equal opportunities. It is an ideal which I hope to live for and to achieve. But if needs be, it is an ideal for which I am prepared to die." The words rang across the world. The judge sentenced him to life imprisonment. Mandela was taken to a small, cold cell on Robben Island, off the coast of Cape Town. Chapter 11, The Long Walk Behind Bars. Life on Robben Island was harsh. Mandela's cell was tiny, with no bed, only a thin mat on the floor. He was forced into hard labor in a limestone quarry under the blazing sun. Guards tried to break his spirit with cruelty and humiliation. He was allowed one visitor and one letter every 6 months. But Mandela refused to be broken. He studied secretly, taught younger prisoners, and even learned the Afrikaans language of his jailers to better understand them. He turned prison into a school of leadership. He once said, "I am fundamentally an optimist. Whether that comes from nature or nurture, I cannot say. Part of being optimistic is keeping one's head pointed toward the sun, one's feet moving forward." Mandela kept moving forward, even behind bars. Over the years, his dignity, courage, and endurance transformed him from a prisoner into a symbol. Across South Africa and the world, his name became a rallying cry: "Free Nelson Mandela." Protests, strikes, and international sanctions pressed hard against the apartheid regime. The world demanded Mandela's release. Songs were sung, banners waved, and leaders spoke his name with reverence. Even behind prison walls, Mandela's leadership reached out. He sent secret messages to ANC leaders. He even began quiet negotiations with the government, realizing that peace, not revenge, would be the only true victory. For 27 long years, Mandela endured prison. He aged. His hair grew gray, but his spirit remained unbroken. He said, "I learned that courage was not the absence of fear, but the triumph over it. The brave man is not he who does not feel afraid, but he who conquers that fear." Chapter 13, Freedom at Last. On February 11, 1990, the world watched in awe as Nelson Mandela walked out of prison hand in hand with his wife Winnie. He was 71 years old. The years had left their mark on his face, but his eyes shone with strength. His first words to the people were humble and full of hope. "I stand here before you not as a prophet, but as a humble servant of you, the people. Today, the time for healing of wounds has come. The time to build is upon us." The streets of South Africa erupted with celebration. The impossible had happened. The long walk to freedom was reaching its final steps. Chapter 14, Building a Rainbow Nation. After his release, Mandela faced a new challenge: how to heal a nation scarred by centuries of injustice. Some wanted revenge, but Mandela preached reconciliation. He met with those who had once oppressed him, working with them to lay the foundation of a new South Africa. He reminded his people, resentment is like drinking poison and then hoping it will kill your enemies. In 1994, history turned a page. For the first time, all South Africans, black, white, Indian, colored, could vote. Millions lined up, some for hours, to cast their ballots. On April 27, 1994, Nelson Mandela was elected the first black president of South Africa.
At his inauguration, he declared, "Never, never, and never again shall it be that this beautiful land will again experience the oppression of one by another." South Africa was reborn as the Rainbow Nation, with Mandela as its guiding light. Chapter 15, Invictus Spirit. As president, Mandela worked tirelessly to unite the divided country.
One of his boldest gestures came during the 1995 Rugby World Cup. Rugby had long been seen as a sport of white South Africans, but Mandela saw an opportunity. He donned the jersey of the Springboks, the national team, and stood beside them. When the underdog team triumphed in the final, Mandela presented the trophy to the captain, wearing a broad smile and a green jersey. The moment electrified the nation, proving that unity was possible. The world later remembered this act in the film Invictus, named after a poem Mandela loved, which ends with the lines, "I am the master of my fate, I am the captain of my soul." Chapter 16. The Elder Statesman. After serving just one term, Mandela stepped down in 1999, showing the world that true leaders know when to let go of power.
In his later years, he became a global elder statesman, advocating for peace, education, and the fight against poverty and HIV/AIDS. He traveled widely, meeting world leaders and young people alike.
Wherever he went, his message was the same: forgiveness is stronger than hate, hope is stronger than despair, and determination can change the world. Chapter 17. Farewell to a Giant. On December 5, 2013, Nelson Mandela passed away at the age of 95. The world mourned. Leaders from across the globe gathered to honor him. Millions of ordinary people wept, sang, and prayed. His death was not just the loss of a South African hero, but of a global icon. Yet even in mourning there was celebration. Celebration of a life that had transformed a nation and of a man who had become a symbol of humanity's highest ideals. Chapter 18. The Lessons of Mandela. What can we, today, learn from Nelson Mandela's journey? That struggles shape greatness. Mandela endured 27 years in prison but emerged with wisdom instead of bitterness. That forgiveness heals more deeply than vengeance. He turned enemies into partners and division into unity. That persistence matters. He once said, "I never lose. I either win or learn." Failure to him was not defeat, but instruction. Mandela showed us that true leadership is not about power, but about service. True courage is not about fearlessness, but about moving forward despite fear. True freedom is not just breaking chains, it is building bridges. Today, his story reminds each of us, no matter where we come from, no matter how dark the road, we too can rise. We too can choose hope over despair, forgiveness over hate, unity over division. As Mandela himself once said, "The greatest glory in living lies not in never falling, but in rising every time we fall." And so ends the story of Nelson Mandela, the boy called Ralila, the man called Nelson, the leader called Madiba, and the legend who will forever be remembered as the father of a free South Africa.